First Contact and Deception. The Meridian Empire's flagship, Eternal Dawn, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Sol system, its crystalline hull refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. Admiral Vexthor stood on the bridge, his 4 eyes narrowing as they focused on the blue planet ahead. After 10,000 years of unchallenged expansion, the Empire had perfected the art of conquest through overwhelming technological superiority. Another primitive world, Vexthor commented, his secondary arms inputting commands into the holographic interface. Scan complete. Basic space presence. Minimal orbital infrastructure. Classification. Pre-FTL civilization. But deep within Cheyenne Mountain, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the alien vessel's arrival on quantum-entangled displays that the Empire's sensors couldn't detect. Earth had known about the Meridians for 15 years, ever since humanity's quantum observatory network detected their first conquest 6 systems away. They had spent every moment since preparing. Initiative Cassandra is green, she announced to the assembled Joint Chiefs. They're seeing exactly what we want them to see. The hologram in the center of the room showed the carefully crafted illusion Earth was projecting. Obsolete satellites, primitive space stations, and a civilization seemingly centuries behind the Empire in development. General Marcus Rodriguez nodded grimly. How long until they realize those primitive satellites are actually quantum-cloaked weapon platforms? They won't, Chen replied with quiet confidence. Not until we want them to. The deception continued as the Empire's diplomatic vessel descended through Earth's atmosphere 3 days later. They landed in Geneva, greeted by what appeared to be Earth's highest officials. Actually highly trained actors backed by the most sophisticated AI coaching systems humanity had developed. Every stumbling diplomatic interaction, every display of apparent technological inferiority, was carefully choreographed. Meanwhile, in bases hidden beneath the Pacific Ocean, inside hollow mountains, and in subsurface lunar installations, humanity's real military force waited. Ships that could match or exceed Imperial technology, weapons developed through quantum computing and dark matter manipulation, and soldiers enhanced through ethical applications of genetic engineering and cybernetics, all invisible to Imperial scanning technology. The Empire's ambassador, Lord Creven, delivered their standard ultimatum. Submit within 30 days or face annihilation. The human representatives played their parts perfectly, appearing appropriately terrified while requesting time to consult with Earth's various nations. But in her hidden command center, Dr. Chen was already initiating the next phase. Begin Operation Looking Glass, she ordered. Across the solar system, quantum computers began analyzing every scrap of data about Imperial technology, finding weaknesses that the Empire didn't even know existed. The Empire had never faced an opponent who had studied them for years before first contact. They had never encountered a species that had deliberately hidden its true capabilities, and they had never fought an enemy who had spent over a decade preparing specifically to defeat them. They were about to learn why humans had perfected the art of strategic deception. The silent response. Days turned into weeks as Earth's apparent leadership debated the Empire's ultimatum. The Imperial delegation grew increasingly impatient, watching what they believed to be primitive humans scrambling to organize a unified response. Lord Creven sent daily reports back to the Empire, describing Earth's laughably outdated technology and the chaos of their political systems. But in lunar orbit, hidden behind quantum cloaking fields, Commander Maya Patel watched the Imperial communications with satisfaction. Every transmission they intercepted revealed more about Imperial protocols, command structures, and tactical doctrine. The Empire's own communications were becoming their greatest weakness. Deception grid holding steady, her XO reported from the bridge of the EDS Artemis, Earth's most advanced stealth dreadnought. Imperial sensors still can't penetrate our quantum camouflage. They have no idea we're here. Maya nodded, studying the tactical display showing hundreds of similarly cloaked vessels positioned throughout the solar system. 15 years of preparation had produced ships that combined the best of human ingenuity with reverse-engineered alien technology detected from Imperial communications. The Empire's deadline approached its final days. In Geneva, the puppet government prepared to deliver humanity's official response. But in bases across Earth and throughout the solar system, the real response was already in motion. Dr. Chen's quantum computers had completed their analysis of Imperial weaknesses. Their entire command and control structure relied on quantum encrypted transmissions that they believed unbreakable. They were about to discover that humans had broken that encryption 5 years ago. The day before the deadline, humanity struck. There was no warning, no declaration of war, no dramatic reveal of their true capabilities. Instead, at precisely 300 UTC, every Imperial ship in the solar system suddenly lost all power as human-designed quantum viruses tore through their supposedly impenetrable computer systems. Lord Crevan was in the middle of another condescending report to his superiors when his ship's systems went dark. The last thing he saw before emergency lighting kicked in was a simple text message scrolling across his screen. "You should have studied us more carefully." Commander Patel gave the order, and Earth's hidden fleet decloaked. The Artemis alone was larger than the Empire's entire diplomatic squadron, its dark matter-powered weapons already locked on target. Similar scenes played out across the solar system as humanity's true military might reveal itself. In Cheyenne Mountain, Dr. Chen watched the Imperial ships hanging powerless in space. "Send the real message," she ordered. Every Imperial computer system still functioning received the same transmission, a comprehensive history of human warfare, showing not just their weapons and tactics, but their capacity for strategic thinking, deception, and unconventional warfare. It ended with a simple ultimatum of their own: leave our space immediately, or learn firsthand why we spent 15 years preparing for this moment. The Empire had never retreated before, but they had also never faced an opponent who had outmaneuvered them so completely before the first shot was even fired. Breaking the unbreakable. The Imperial High Command received Earth's message with disbelief that quickly turned to rage. In their 10,000 years of expansion, no species had ever dared to challenge them so boldly. The Emperor himself, a being who hadn't left his quantum-shielded throne world in 3 centuries, emerged to oversee the response personally. "Send the Dominion fleet," he commanded, his crystalline form pulsing with anger. "Show these humans the price of defiance." But Earth had anticipated this reaction. As the Imperial reinforcements began arriving through their faster-than-light corridors, they found themselves emerging into carefully prepared killing zones. Humanity's quantum predictive engines had calculated the most likely emergence points with unprecedented accuracy. Dr. Chen watched from her command center as the first wave of Imperial ships materialized exactly where expected. "Execute Operation Thunderbolt," she ordered. Immediately, hidden antimatter mines detonated across the solar system's entry points. Quantum-entangled weapon platforms that had appeared to be simple communications satellites revealed their true nature. The Empire's mighty warships, emerging from FTL travel in tight formation, made perfect targets. Commander Patel led the space-based counter-offensive from the Artemis. "All ships engage according to Protocol Omega," she transmitted. Earth's vessels, designed specifically to counter Imperial technology, moved with a coordination that shocked their opponents. Each human ship operated with an AI co-pilot linked to a quantum neural network, allowing them to react and adapt faster than any Imperial crew. The Empire had always relied on overwhelming force and superior technology. But for the first time, they faced an enemy who had studied their every weakness and prepared countermeasures for every advantage. Their shields, calibrated to stop energy weapons, proved vulnerable to human kinetic kill vehicles accelerated to relativistic speeds. Their sophisticated targeting systems were confused by quantum decoys that existed in multiple states simultaneously. Lord Commander Vexthor, now leading the Imperial counterattack, watched in horror as his fleet's casualties mounted. "Impossible," he muttered, watching another dreadnought split apart under concentrated fire. They're barbarians. Pre-FTL savages. How can they? His words were cut off as his flagship's quantum communications suddenly activated without command. Dr. Chen's face appeared on every screen. "We've been watching you for 15 years, she explained calmly. "Did you really think we wouldn't learn from everything we saw? Your empire's greatest weakness is its arrogance." The battle raged across the solar system. Imperial ships, designed for straightforward combat against technologically inferior foes, found themselves caught in complex traps and ambushes. Human vessels seemed to appear from nowhere, strike with devastating precision, and vanish again behind their quantum cloaking fields. But Earth's greatest advantage wasn't their technology. It was their tactical flexibility. While Imperial commanders followed standard doctrine developed over millennia of easy victories, human forces constantly adapted their tactics. Each engagement was different, each attack unexpected. The Emperor, watching the battle through quantum-entangled feeds, felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: fear. These humans weren't fighting like a pre-FTL civilization desperately resisting conquest. They were fighting like they had spent years preparing for this exact moment. And as his mighty Dominion fleet found itself increasingly trapped and outmaneuvered in the Sol system, he realized a terrible truth. They had the Emperor's gambit. The Emperor had not survived 10 millennia by accepting defeat. As reports of the Dominion fleet's devastating losses flooded in, he activated a quantum link to his most secretive research facility. "Deploy the World Breaker," he commanded. "Show these humans the true meaning of Imperial power." Deep in Imperial space, a massive vessel emerged from its dimensional dock. The World Breaker represented the pinnacle of Imperial technology, a ship capable of inducing artificial supernovas, powered by an artificial quantum singularity. It had never been used in actual combat. Its mere existence had been enough to ensure compliance from previous resistant species. But Earth's quantum intelligence network detected the vessel's activation immediately. In her command center, Dr. Chen's holographic displays lit up with warnings. "They're deploying their doomsday weapon," she announced to the assembled military leadership, exactly as predicted. General Rodriguez smiled grimly. "Initiate Operation Looking Glass. Let's show them why you don't bring a superweapon to a chess match." The World Breaker arrived in Sol system with an escort of surviving Imperial vessels. Its very presence caused gravitational distortions that its commanders expected would disable human vessels. Instead, they found Earth's ships had already adapted their quantum field generators to compensate. Commander Patel led the initial response from the Artemis. "All ships, execute pattern chimera," she ordered. Earth's fleet split into smaller task forces, each executing seemingly random maneuvers that made no sense to Imperial tactical computers. But there was nothing random about their movements. "Your species' obsession with games of strategy has served you well," the Emperor's voice boomed across all frequencies. "But this ends now. Surrender, or watch your sun transform into a supernova." In response, Dr. Chen transmitted a single mathematical formula to the World Breaker. The Emperor's own scientists stared in shock as they decoded it. It was the exact equation showing why their superweapon wouldn't work in Sol system. Humans had calculated the quantum mechanics perfectly and found the flaw in the Empire's greatest weapon before it was even deployed. But the Emperor had not come this far to be denied. "Fire the primary weapon," he commanded. The World Breaker's massive quantum singularity powered up, its energy readings exceeding anything previously recorded in Imperial history. This was the moment Earth had been waiting for. Hidden quantum receivers activated throughout the solar system, creating a complex web of entangled fields. As the World Breaker released its enormous energy burst, the quantum web caught it, channeled it, and redirected it. The Empire watched in horror as their ultimate weapon's power was turned back against their own fleet. The World Breaker itself was caught in the quantum backwash, its artificial singularity becoming unstable. The Emperor barely had time to realize that humans had transformed his entire attack fleet into the components of a massive quantum trap. "You relied on your technology's raw power. Dr. Chen transmitted to the failing Imperial flagship. We relied on understanding how it actually works. As the Worldbreaker's containment fields collapsed, Commander Patel gave the order to execute the final phase of humanity's plan. Earth's ships created a quantum containment field around the Imperial fleet, ensuring that the explosion would not damage the solar system. The Empire's greatest weapon became their greatest defeat. The Emperor, watching through quantum feeds as his undefeated weapons self-destructed, finally understood. Humanity hadn't just prepared for this war, they had orchestrated every step of it, from first contact to this final confrontation. Rewriting the stars. In the aftermath of the Worldbreaker's destruction, an unprecedented silence fell across Imperial communication channels. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Empire had not just been defeated, they had been systematically outmaneuvered at every turn. The implications were staggering. Dr. Chen stood before the United Earth Council, presenting the final statistics of the conflict. The Empire lost 60% of their frontline fleet strength, she reported. More importantly, they lost the aura of invincibility that had kept their subject species in line for millennia. Reports were already coming in through quantum intelligence networks of uprising on Imperial worlds. Species that had lived under Imperial dominion for thousands of years looked to Earth as an example. Humanity had done the impossible. They had shown that the Empire could be beaten. The Emperor, his crystalline form now dulled with stress, faced his first-ever challenge in the Imperial High Council. How? He demanded of his advisors. How did they defeat our greatest weapon? They understood it better than we did, one scientist admitted. They didn't just prepare for war. They studied every aspect of our civilization, our technology, our tactics. While we saw them as primitives to be conquered, they were analyzing everything about us. Commander Patel's fleet now moved beyond Sol system, not to conquer, but to protect newly liberated worlds. The Artemis and her sister ships became symbols of a new order, one where technological superiority alone didn't guarantee victory. In Geneva, no longer a stage for false diplomacy, real negotiations began. The Imperial delegation arrived not with demands, but with a request for peace. They found themselves facing Dr. Chen, General Rodriguez, and Commander Patel, the architects of their defeat. Your empire has stood for 10,000 years, Chen acknowledged. But it stood through fear and overwhelming force. We're offering you a chance to be part of something different. The terms were revolutionary. The empire would survive, but transformed. No more conquest, no more forced submissions. A new Galactic Council would be formed, with Earth taking a leading role not through military might, but through their demonstrated ability to innovate and adapt. You've shown us something we had forgotten, the Imperial delegation admitted. Power isn't just about superior technology or fleet strength. It's about understanding, adaptation, and the willingness to think beyond traditional boundaries. As news spread throughout the galaxy, Earth found itself at the center of a technological and cultural renaissance. Species that had been subjugated for millennia began sharing their own hidden innovations. The Empire's defeat had opened the floodgates of progress long held back by fear and control. Dr. Chen stood in her quantum observatory, watching the streams of data from across the galaxy. Humanity's victory had changed everything, but their work was just beginning. They had proved themselves in war. Now they would prove themselves in peace. We spent 15 years preparing for war, she told her assembled team. Now we'll show them what humanity can do when we prepare for peace. The galaxy would never be the same. The species that the Empire had dismissed as primitive had become the architects of a new era. Humanity had not just defended itself, they had transformed the very nature of galactic civilization. And in the quantum archives of 1,000 worlds, the story would be told of how a supposedly primitive species had used patience, preparation, and understanding to defeat an empire that had stood for 10 millennia. It wasn't just a victory of weapons or technology. It was a victory of human ingenuity, adaptability, and the capacity to see beyond the obvious. The stars themselves seem brighter now, illuminating not an empire of fear and submission, but a galaxy of possibilities where understanding and cooperation would build something greater than conquest ever could.